Every year, around £52 billion is stolen from the UK's public purse. But up and down Britain, an army of fraud fighters is battling to win it back.
This money should really have been used to pay for the essential services that all of us use every day.
Benefit fraud does not pay.
What it effectively is people stealing money from you and I.
This is a huge amount of money and it's disgraceful.
From paying for the police and our health service, filling in potholes and emptying our dustbins, to making sure everyone has a roof over their head.
£2 million means an awful lot, but it was just the tip of the iceberg.
So it's absolutely disgusting what they do.
The investigators' mission has never been more vital.
Blatant lies just to claim benefits.
And the only thing I could put it down to is greed.
This is not a victimless crime. This is coming out of the public purse.
We will not let it go. We're like dogs with bones.
You will be found, you will be investigated, and ultimately you will be prosecuted.
The Fraud Squad are on the case.
Today, a transport company owner is stopped in his tracks as he tries to get away with hundreds of thousands of pounds of public money.
There's panic about being stopped shortly before, stating we're going to get locked up for this.
A trusted NHS employee is caught red-handed as she helps herself to crucial funds.
Whether it is £1 or £100,000, it, in my professional opinion, makes no difference whatsoever because that money is due for patient care.
And a greedy conwoman takes advantage of the benefit system, frittering away tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money.
Those that are fraudulent, dipping into the public purse, they should be rightly prosecuted.
Tax dodgers cost the UK £35 billion a year. That is a staggering amount of money going into their back pockets instead of towards the services we all rely on. And our next fraudster is prepared to go the extra mile to avoid paying his fair share and make truckloads of cash in the process.
Paying the right tax and duties is essential. It's the taxes and duties that help fund our essential public services, like hospitals and schools.
This shocking case involves a removals company that, from the outside, looks like a regular business. But take a closer look, and it's all a front to smuggle huge amounts of cigarettes across our borders and dodge the tax that's due. On the case is HMRC fraud investigator Nicola Dunk.
We need to make sure that we are paying the right amount of tax and that is being put to the right places.
A removal lorry arrives at customs in Dover on its way back from a trip to northern France.
The removals company boss had taken a job to collect household items, personal effects from a property in Brittany.
The lorry is pulled over for a routine inspection. And border officials ask the driver whether he's transporting anything he shouldn't be.
To those questions, the lorry driver answered no, he wasn't carrying anything. He produced some paperwork. Following that, he was directed to the X-ray scanner by Border Force officers.
Border Force search hundreds of vehicles every day to stop illegal attempts to smuggle goods into the country. This should just be another standard inspection, but it's far from it.
So one would expect to find household effects, sofas, furniture, that had been taken from one house to be delivered to another house.
But when officials scan the vehicle, something immediately catches their eye.
There was a very condensed area at the front of the trailer that looked different.
The scan should show the lorry filled with furniture all the way from front to back. But something about this particular picture just doesn't look right.
At the front third of the trailer here, you have very dark density, very dark lines from almost floor to ceiling, whereas the rest of the trailer is very haphazard. The shading is very different, and it's this which would cause Border Force officers to want to give a further check and further examination to eliminate anything from that load. But following that, Border Force officers directed the heavy goods vehicle into the examination bays, who opened up the back of the trailer to have a look to see what was in there. When the officers started to inspect the load, they did, on an initial view, find personal effects from the house.
It appears the driver could be telling the truth about only having furniture on board. But border officials continue to search the entire lorry.
When they looked further to where the anomaly had been detected on the scan, they located a large quantity of brown boxes. So, in effect, the contents of the house was covering up the boxes at the back. So for anybody just opening the back of the trailer, they would not have seen all the boxes at the front of the trailer. On opening one of those boxes, they identified a large quantity of cigarettes.
All tobacco products are subject to excise duty, a tax on certain goods brought into the UK. If they're not declared at the border, that's money being deprived from the public purse.
It was a large quantity. There were actually 10 pallets of boxes, so there was an estimated 2 million cigarettes on board.
It's a huge seizure. 2 million illegally smuggled cigarettes means potentially hundreds of thousands of pounds in unpaid excise duty. Border Force take immediate action.
The lorry driver was arrested, and due to the quantity of the cigarettes that were found, the case was referred to HMRC's Fraud Investigation Service for further investigation.
The driver is taken into custody. But the search isn't over. Border Force officials do a sweep of the cab in a hunt for more vital evidence.
Within the cab unit, a dash cam was identified. This dash cam actually took not only visual footage, but also it was recording audio.
Along with the footage, officials seized 2 mobile phones and a tachograph recording, which provides details of exactly where the lorry has travelled over the last 48 hours.
Getting key evidence like that is absolutely important for us to be able to piece together and put the evidence to the individuals.
While the digital evidence is sent off to be analysed by specialists, HMRC investigators interview their suspect. They need answers as to why this house move also includes 2 million undeclared cigarettes.
The lorry driver, who was the removals company boss, denied any wrongdoing, denied any knowledge about the cigarettes. His account was that when he entered St Malo, he drove for a number of miles. He then met some unknowns who then loaded these boxes onto the lorry. This was prior to the collection of the household contents from Brittany. He knew nothing about cigarettes. For all he was aware, those boxes contained clothing, and there was a consignment note within the lorry that verified that.
The driver's pleading ignorance, but Nicola's not buying it. Later, the cigarette smuggler's denials go up in smoke as HMRC gathers yet more compelling evidence.
They know that the cigarettes are going to be found once the vehicle is examined.
These are going to be all over us.
Our parents are supposed to do right by us, to lead by example, or at the very least, show us right from wrong. But as our next case proves, Mum doesn't always know best.
It's unfair that she's taking money from those that are in need of this money and she's spending it on a lavishing lifestyle with the family.
Senior Crown Prosecutor Maqsood Khan reviews hundreds of fraud cases each year. And one has landed on his desk that he can't quite believe.
So there was an allegation that there was a lady who was claiming benefits on the basis that she was single and supporting children by herself, whereas in fact the allegation was that she was actually living with someone. She was claiming 4 benefits: universal credit, income support, tax credits, and housing benefits.
The woman has been receiving up to £20,000 a year in benefits. That's £94,000 over the last 5 years. It's a huge amount of public money. The team investigate if there's any truth in the anonymous tip-off. If her partner is living with her, she's defrauding the council of tens of thousands of pounds.
One of the first things that the investigator would do was check if there's any financial links between the alleged partner and the lady who was claiming the benefits.
With access to the woman's bank accounts, her story soon starts to unravel.
So applying for the statements, it was established and found that large sums of money be transferred from the alleged partner's account to the claimant's account.
The woman has been regularly receiving hundreds of pounds a month from her alleged partner and not declaring it to the authorities. This means she's been receiving far more money from her benefits than she's entitled to. It could mean the pair are actually in a relationship, but the team needs more. And they don't have to look far to find it.
Another piece of evidence that strengthened the case was that it was identified from council tax records that both the claimant and the alleged partner were both jointly liable for council tax for this property they were both living in.
The man's been jointly paying council tax for 7 years, even though she claims he doesn't live there. The picture the woman has been painting of a lone parent struggling to make ends meet is a fiction. She's been shamelessly taking money from the public purse for years, whilst also being supported by her partner. The team take a closer look at her claim forms and find she's been sticking to the same story of being a single parent.
So this is the income support form that the lady completed online. And the question is quite clear about the partner. Do you have a partner? And she's clearly said on this form that no, she has single and she has supporting 4 children. Nowhere she mentions that she's currently at the time was living with a partner and he was earning income as well. The Department for Work and Pensions did rely on this information. There's no follow-up interview or there's no second form to complete. So once this form is submitted online, the information is relied upon and the benefit is then paid out according to the information on form.
The woman is playing the system to steal thousands, and she's been repeating her lies year in, year out.
The claimant had to call in every year to renew the claims, and she's asked the same question. Is there a change in circumstances? Is there a partner living with you? Would you like to report any changes? In each occasion, she failed to do that.
The woman has had plenty of opportunity to tell the authorities her real situation, but instead, she's carried on cashing in from her bogus claims.
I can see that she was receiving £408 a week in tax credits from HMRC. That's £408 a week. It's an incredible amount of money to receive, knowing that she didn't need it. She was in support of her partner, who was living with her. Her partner was working and providing for her. Her partner was transferring money into her account on a regular basis. And it clearly shows that this money she's receiving just could have been used elsewhere for a better purpose.
Her claims have spanned 5 years, and the woman has managed to con just under £80,000 worth of tax credits alone from the public purse. It's an astonishing amount of money. Despite being supported by a partner, and falsely claiming £80,000 in tax credits, the fraudster is also receiving 4 other benefits. And the team suspects they could well be dodgy too. They discover that 4 years ago she moved house, renting a 4-bedroomed new-build property with her partner. You'd think this might be a good time to start telling the truth and own up to her true living situation. But think again.
When she moved property, she was obliged to tell the departments, the authorities of where she's claiming benefits from, the change of address, any other changes that she needs to report. And she had this opportunity to declare the truth, but again, once again, she failed to declare that she was living with someone. And she maintained a lie, which was that she was single, she was supporting 4 children by herself.
The fraudster has carried on claiming ever since, pocketing thousands of pounds in tax credits and income support, all whilst pretending to be a single parent struggling to get by. And while she enjoys her new home, unbelievably, she's also claiming benefits for the old one.
Blatant lies just to claim benefits. And the lying just doesn't stop there.
Later, as the team keep digging, the conwoman's deception goes even further.
On each occasion she lied, which shows to me that this person was just dishonest and just greedy.
The NHS has been caring for the nation for decades, and yet this beloved institution is defrauded of over £1 billion every year. What's worse is that sometimes that fraud is committed by insiders. In our next story, an NHS manager who should know better betrays her own colleagues and the patients they care for.
On the outskirts of Swansea is a local GP practice that looks after the health and well-being of around 10,000 patients. Like all doctors' surgeries, it relies on the trust and the integrity of its staff. But for 3 years, it was the home of a workplace crime, fueled by opportunity and greed. A crime investigated by former police officer Neil Jones.
I'm a local counter fraud specialist employed by Swansea Bay University Health Board. We investigate all aspects of fraud, bribery and corruption on behalf of the Health Board.
And in his next case, Neil's attention is drawn to a local GP's experienced and trusted manager.
I received a call informing me that the suspicions that the practice manager at a surgery local to here was or had been misappropriating funds. When this practice manager was employed, she was employed basically because of the fact that she had 20 years experience as a practice manager in the primary care setting and been involved with practice management and financial management of the practices prior to taking on this role.
As well as having access to confidential patient records, the practice manager is in charge of the surgery's day-to-day finances. It's a position of trust and responsibility.
This case came to light during a business meeting where the practice manager informed the partners that there was insufficient funds to pay the practice staff the following month, but could provide no explanation and no answer as to why.
News of the shortfall comes as a big shock to the practice.
So one of the business partners examined the practice manager's payslips, where she'd clearly discovered that the practice manager had been paying herself unauthorised overtime between 20 and 30 hours per month.
The surgery has a clear policy. All overtime has to be approved. But with nobody keeping an eye on her, has the practice manager seen an opportunity to line her own pockets at the expense of patient care? If so, how much money has she funneled from NHS coffers into her own bank account?
In relation to the actual amount stolen, whether it is £1 or £100,000, it, in my professional opinion, makes no difference whatsoever, because that money is due for patient care. So this was a case that needed to be investigated promptly and effectively.
Neil suspects that while her colleagues are working hard to help others, the shameless practice manager is helping herself to large amounts of cash. It's time to pay the surgery a surprise visit.
We then undertook a search of the practice manager's office in accordance with the Police and Criminal Evidence Act over a 3-day period. What we were looking for predominantly was evidence in relation to her overtime claims.
There's a mountain of paperwork to look through. But former police detective Neil leaves no file unopened and no piece of paper unread. 3 days into the search, he finds exactly what he's been looking for.
A significant document that we found in the office search was an NHS superannuation documentation, which clearly illustrated the fact that the practice manager had inflated her yearly annual income substantially. So the first one here, which is the 2016-2017 document, clearly illustrated the fact that she had earned gross pay in excess of £43,000. And this document, which relates to the years 2017-2018, clearly illustrated the fact that her gross pay for that year exceeded £46,000. Now, that was obviously well above her contracted wages of £36,000.
In total, she's pocketed £18,000 of unauthorised overtime right underneath her colleagues' noses. But that's not all. The opportunist practice manager has even been giving herself regular pay rises, leading to a hefty overpayment in pension contributions too. It's daylight robbery. In just 3 years, she's conned her colleagues and the NHS out of more than £43,000. Her greed has no end, but it is the end of the road for her and her dodgy ways. With the evidence stacking up, Neil's convinced the shady surgery manager will have no choice but to come clean. But when he brings her in for questioning, he's in for a surprise.
She denied all the allegations that we put to her. So this was clearly a case that it was needed for me to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the practice manager had defrauded the practice and stolen the money which was due for patient care.
Undeterred, Neil prepares all his evidence to present to the court. The practice manager is still denying everything. But faced with a judge, she soon changes her tune and pleads guilty to fraud by abuse of position.
Following this 12-month investigation, the defendant appeared at Swansea Crown Court. She was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment, suspended for 12 months. She was also ordered to repay the unauthorised overtime of £18,500 back to the practice, which the defendant did so. She had also repaid the full sum of unauthorised pension benefit, which equates to in excess of £43,000.
That's £43,000 that can now be spent on what it's intended for, patients of the practice where she so blatantly abused her position.
This was a positive result, which clearly illustrates the fact that those who work within the NHS, who feel that they can use criminal activity to defraud the NHS, will be caught and prosecuted.
is a seasoned NHS counter-fraud investigator and has a list of things to look out for. In this case, alarm bells were ringing from the start, but he has the same questions he asks in fraud cases time and time again. Does one person have unrestricted access to the money? Is anybody suddenly splashing the cash with no explanation as to where the money came from? Or is someone feeling disgruntled, regularly complaining and asking for a pay rise? These are all red flags for Neil, and counter-fraud investigators want anyone who works in the NHS to watch out for these warning signs.
In London, fraud investigator Nicola Dunk is on the case of a multi-million-pound smuggling fraud. At the port of Dover, Border Force officers have pulled over a removals lorry.
They located a large quantity of brown boxes. On opening one of those boxes, they identified a large quantity of cigarettes.
The arrested driver is denying all knowledge of his lucrative load. But investigators are convinced he's hidden the haul of contraband to avoid paying hundreds of thousands of pounds in excise duty.
Border Force officers, on detecting the cigarettes within the load, arrested the individuals immediately for evasion of excise duty, and at which point the case was referred to HMRC's Fraud Investigation Service for further investigation.
Nicola and her team still need more evidence to prove their suspect is not only in the driving seat of the lorry, but also of this shameless fraud. Several pieces of evidence have been recovered from the cab of the lorry, including the tachograph.
The tachograph measures distance, it records the speed that the vehicle would have attained throughout the journey, and it also captures the driving hours of the driver. And what the forensic scientist, what we commissioned the forensic scientist to do, was to use that data and create a route trace, as we call it, or a route of what journey the lorry took on the key dates.
The information from the tachograph allows Nicola to piece together the lorry's movements in France before it boarded the ferry.
The blue line is the route that the lorry would have taken, and you can see the starting point here is St Malo. So they were stopped here for a period of time. In fact, they were stopped there nearly the whole day. They then, rather than take the route back, the same route back to the UK, they decided that they were going to take a different route back to Calais. And here you can see the lorry has travelled through France.
Rather than going directly back to the UK after collecting the furniture in Brittany, the lorry seems to have taken a detour.
There's a few areas where they stop off for rest breaks and to take on fuel. It carries on the journey up north through France. The route back to Calais would be up here, which would have been the route home, but no, the lorry actually diverts, and this deviation takes them to Belgium, into a place called Tamines, which is an industrial area, and this is where we believe the 2 million cigarettes were loaded onto the lorry.
The evidence blows the driver's account out of the water. He claims he picked up the furniture and headed straight to catch the ferry back to the UK. But it's clear he's lying and drove to Belgium first, potentially to pick up the cigarettes. But a lorry going off course doesn't prove it's been involved in smuggling. The team needs more evidence to strengthen the case. Analysis of the driver's phone comes back.
There were 2 key text messages or conversations between the lorry driver and another unknown individual talking about what we purport to be cigarettes. The second telephone or mobile phone that was examined, that also held a conversation that referred to picking up fags at 9 o'clock on a morning, which obviously is the pickup of the cigarettes.
The texts between the driver and his associate show he knew exactly what was being loaded onto his lorry.
The text messages were very significant. They had the individuals that were in that cab talking to other unidentified persons about cigarettes, about picking up cigarettes the next day. So it led us to key evidence that those individuals were knowingly concerned with the importation of cigarettes.
This is the irrefutable evidence Nicola needed, but she still has to link them to the illegal shipment. Could the video found on the driver's dashcam prove key?
This is the moment they realise that they're being pulled over.
I don't even look now, right? This is where we get stopped if we get stopped.
After shortly before stating we're going to get locked up for this.
These are going to be all over us. Sick.
The panic, the swearing, there's lots of swearing on there. There's panic about being stopped, about them being done for, that they're going to get locked up.
Job is...
Panicked about what's about to happen and are they going to be stopped? And if they are, then there's going to be trouble. And when they're stopped, the driver says to the effect of, remember what we've said.
Please just remember what we've said.
It's astonishing evidence. It proves the driver knew the cigarettes were on the lorry.
Please just remember what we've said.
That's critical. They're effectively, they know that there's something, they've done something wrong. They know that there's going to be a stop and there's going to be repercussions for what they've got on that load. They know that the cigarettes are going to be found once the vehicle is examined.
I don't even look now, right? This is where we get stopped if we get stopped. These are going to be all over us. Sick.
For Nicola and her team, it's the final piece of the jigsaw. And the driver's story about not knowing anything about the cigarettes on his lorry has just gone up in smoke.
So having evidence such as the digital or audio footage, having them themselves talk about what is happening and what they are doing is key. It's first-hand evidence, which for investigators is exceptional. I'm not sure they really were aware that it was recorded audio. Yes, the route, but not the audio.
HMRC bring the driver back in for a second interview and show him the video footage.
When the dash cam footage was played to the lorry driver, the removals company boss, he changed his story and he admitted to knowing that those boxes contained cigarettes.
He's no choice but to confess all. Nicola and the team have successfully prevented a massive amount of tax being dodged.
There was a total of 2 million cigarettes on board, on 10 pallets. There were 200 boxes full of cigarettes, so 2 million in total, and the amount of duty that was evaded on that 2 million cigarettes was £615,805.
It's a staggering amount that could pay for crucial services that are in desperate need. But Nicola suspects there's even more to the case. She focuses on where the cigarettes were likely collected from.
As a result of the information that we shared, the Belgium Customs raided a warehouse in Tamine in Belgium and seized over 26 million cigarettes and closed down an illicit tobacco factory.
It's a huge result. A potential multi-million-pound international fraud has been stopped in its tracks, along with millions more counterfeit cigarettes, likely destined for the UK.
So the company removals boss was charged with the evasion of excise duty. Initially, he pleaded not guilty to the offence, but due to the overwhelming evidence that the investigators found in this case, the removals company boss had nowhere to go and subsequently pleaded guilty to this offence.
He's sentenced to 2.5 years behind bars for evasion of excise duty. For Nicola and her team, the hard work has paid off and our public purse has been protected.
As an investigation team, it feels great. It feels like we worked tirelessly through that evening when that lorry was stopped to look and sift through the evidence to find those real key pieces of evidence that will help us to really identify that that individual knew about the smuggle, had orchestrated it.
You just remember what we've said.
So the trade in illicit cigarettes is at a cost to the UK. It damages the funds available for our public services. It undermines legitimate businesses like our corner shops that serve our local communities. Tobacco smugglers are criminals. They don't care who they sell to, including children. We'll relentlessly pursue tax criminals.
Over in Merseyside, senior Crown prosecutor Maksud Khan is wading through a stack of evidence against a suspected benefit cheat. He's on the tail of a woman falsely claiming over £1,000 per month in benefits as a single parent, when in reality, she lives with her partner.
She was committing benefit fraud without a second thought of those people in need, especially now in today's time where the cost of living is going up and people are struggling out there even to buy the basic needs.
For 5 years, she's been deviously cashing in, even though her partner has a full-time job.
She was claiming 4 benefits: universal credit, income support, tax credits, and housing benefits.
The team have added up that in tax credits alone, she's taken just under £80,000 that could be helping single parents in real need. The investigators have been diligently digging through her financial records, collecting solid evidence to help Maksud build a watertight case against her. And as the investigation unfolds, they make another shocking discovery.
We went through the bank statements. You found out that a large sum of money from a solicitor firm was paid into her account, which is about £26,000.
Investigators know this conwoman has been falsely claiming housing benefit on a house her partner owns, but they don't live in. It's now sold, and far from struggling financially, she's quids in.
This piece of evidence is a bank statement that belonged to the claimant and controlled by her. It clearly shows that the money generated from that sale, which is about £26,000, was also received by the same bank account.
She's flush with money, but hasn't told the authorities. Instead, she's carried on sneakily claiming benefits she's definitely not entitled to. Her greed doesn't stop there. Just as her bank records show lots of money coming in, there's also plenty of it going out. It seems she has a taste for the finer things in life.
And we can see she paid for a holiday. She paid £9,000 towards this exotic holiday to Cyprus.
And it's all being paid for with taxpayers' money.
I mean, there are people out there who are in need of this benefit, who are genuinely need from support from the government. But yet, this lady had the audacity to spend £9,000 on a luxury holiday to Cyprus.
This woman has shamelessly played the system for all it's got.
It's unfair that she's taking money from those that are in need of this money and she's spending it on a lavishing lifestyle with the family.
But the holiday is over. Her time is up. The evidence is overwhelming. They bring her in for questioning once again.
So in the interview, all the evidence was put to her, and she blatantly denied the allegation. She maintained a lie, being that she was living alone, she was living with her 4 children, she had no support, she was unemployed, and she needed the money from the various departments to support her household.
This serial liar just won't give in. In a bid to get away with her dishonest scam, she tells investigators her partner has moved out of the family home and is living with his mother.
So the investigators were frustrated because of the sheer lies that was coming out of from this claimant, but the interview had to be suspended because of time constraints. So while the interview was suspended, the investigators had more work to do, namely obtaining further witness statements from the partner's mother.
The investigators suspect she's lying, but they have to prove it. They rush around to the mother's house. There, she confirms her son is still in a relationship and does live with the woman. The fraudster's lies have once again been exposed.
With a combination of all the evidence gathered, the claimant then held her hands up and admitted to all the offences. She admitted that she was living together with a partner. She admitted all the claims that she put in were all false.
The team have finally got the confession they wanted from the fraudster.
We then, as prosecutors, reviewed the file, reviewed the evidence. Once we were satisfied there's a realistic prospect of conviction, the claimant was charged for 4 offences, 1 for each beneficiary she claimed. The total fraud in this case amounted to £98,000 over 4 to 5 years. It's a taxpayers' money, it's yours amount of money that's funding the benefits that those in need. Those that fraudulently dip it into the public purse, they should be rightly prosecuted.
The woman goes to court and pleads guilty to all 4 benefit fraud charges.
So this is the Crown Court. Here she was sentenced to 12 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years per charge.
Finally, this prolific con woman has been brought to justice. And her days of living the good life, all paid for with public money, are over.
2 things came to my mind. 1, the sheer greed of claiming benefits and wanting more. And also, it's quite evident that she was a dishonest person. She had a number of opportunities to declare the truth, and she failed to do so. On each occasion, she lied, which shows to me that this person was just dishonest and just greedy.
Join us again when our investigators weed out even more shameless fraudsters.
Seeing somebody steal that amount of money makes me angry.
And help protect the public purse.
It's a clear message to other people that might be thinking of doing the same thing. All money has got to be paid back to the public purse.
If you do commit crime, we will be coming after you.